Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on the season 1 finale of Bungo Stray Dogs. I'm so excited. The last couple episodes, since episode 7, this series has been pretty darn good. I'm not gonna lie. I've become really fascinated by the relationships between these characters, specifically obviously Kunikita is interesting in his relationship with Dazai and Atsushi, but and Kyoka is interesting in her relationship with Atsushi and Akutagawa, and, as a whole, the entire agency, now that she's kind of a quasi member, sort of. They've not officially accepted her, but they seem pretty receptive of her as of last episode. But really, the triangle of Dazai, Akutagawa, and Atsushi has been so intriguing. And now we've added Chuya into the mix. It's a lot of fun. I really, really, really like how this series has developed the comedy, the situations, the relationships, and kind of the symbolism around all these characters. And a lot of you told me in the comments that season 2 is even better than season 1. I'm so excited by that. Especially if we get more Chuya. I have a feeling I'm going to like his character a lot. But let me tell you, last episode, I had a lot of fun with Kenji because this farm girl can relate to Kenji. I can relate. So I was pretty excited to research his ability, which is Undefeated by the Rain, or Be Not Defeated by the Rain. So I looked at Kenji Miyazawa as a poet and the specific Be Not Defeated by the Rain poem. And so the poem itself is from a small little black notebook. It's just like a little poem that was in this little notebook that deals with the virtues of enduring harsh conditions with good grace, which kind of relates to Kenji's personality. He's a very forward, optimistic, idealistic, outgoing, sociable, friendly person. But anyway, so I looked up the poet and this poem itself. And the poet, Kenji, is a pretty well-known poet, but I really want to read this poem because I think we talked about the family motto in the last episode, and the poem's not very long. But it says, unbeaten by the rain, unbeaten by the wind, bested by neither snow nor summer heat, strong of body, free of desire, never angry, always smiling quietly, dining daily on 4 cups of brown rice, which relates back to the whole being hungry for his power to work, some miso and a few vegetables, observing all things with dispassion, but remembering well, living in a small thatched roof house in the meadow beneath a canopy of pines, going east to nurse the sick child, going west to bear sheaves of rice for the weary mother, which kind of relates to him helping out the people in town, going south to tell the dying man there's no cause for fear, going north to tell those who fight to put aside their trifles, shedding tears in times of drought, wandering at a loss during cold summer, called useless by all, neither praised nor bother, such is the person I wish to be. Called useless by all, and that's what you want. So that line right there was really interesting to me, but it kind of relates that Kenji doesn't expect any praise. He doesn't expect anybody to give him any accolades. He's kind of the opposite of Rampo. Rampo wants the president's praise. He wants somebody to acknowledge him. He noticed me, senpai. He wants all of that, kind of like Akutagawa as well. Kenji's the exact opposite. He doesn't want any accolades or recognition. He just wants to live a simple life and help others and get lots of food. It's pretty much it. And I admire that. But I thought it was really cool that it's noted that this poem is wrote specifically in katakana, which they say is stylistically odd because it's wrote out and is usually used for foreign words. But I thought this was really cool that the poet actually may have used katakana because it was more accessible to rural people who couldn't read the other forms of Japanese. And I thought that was really cool. Like he specifically wrote this poem so that anybody could read it and not just people that knew a certain, style of Japanese. And they related it to the poem E. E. Cummings, who wrote kind of in lowercase 2 something similar stylistically. But I thought that was really neat. I'm like, how cool that this little poem in a black book that's just this very simplistic poem has influenced this awesome character. I am a Kenji stan, and I think it's because I relate to him so much. And also, yes, I like the fact that he can access his power when he's really hungry. Hangry powers indeed. If I had a power, it'd probably be a hangry power, where I'd have to be hungry for it to work. I'm all about that. But yeah, Be Not Defeated by the Rain. Really cool ability. It's probably one of my favorite backstories so far because I really like this poet and I like just kind of like the stylistic little oddity of it. That was pretty neat. But yeah, today's episode is called Born Back Ceaselessly into the Past. So I'm very curious what all's going down with that. That sounds interesting to me. So I don't know. It's the season finale, and last episode was kind of odd because we didn't really have a whole cohesive story. It was the first time in the season we split an episode. Like, we had the first part of the episode. I mean, obviously you had that little teaser with Kyoka getting into the agency, but the first part of the episode was Higuchi and her rescuing Akutagawa from the mercenaries and saving him with the help of Black Lizard. And so I'm curious to know if they're getting back into the Port Mafia or if they're going rogue. What are they doing? I guess we'll find out. And then the second part was the whole thing with Kenji and Atsushi. So it seems like if this is based off a manga, and I note that some mangaka like Horikoshi kind of do things similar to this, where when you're transitioning from one arc to the next, you do this little kind of midway story, like a little bridge. And so I wonder if the thing with Kenji and with Akutagawa and Higuchi was just a little bridge. Like, we're about to start a new arc that this season finale is going to begin with, and then we're going to lead into season 2 with that. So that's my guess that I think we're doing. I don't know. But that's my guess. So we'll see if I'm right or not. But yeah, I've rambled enough. I am ready to start the season finale with y'all. So yeah, guys, it is time. We are going to start episode 12 of Bungo Stray Dogs, season 1 finale, here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Holy cow! That episode was so darn good. So darn good. I need to go back through it because there's so much that just I wanted to say in the moment, but I was like, next thing. Okay. So we've set up a couple things in this episode. One, that there is this thing called the Guild. The Guild that is the North American gifted agency that supposedly doesn't exist, but that does. So it is very much mirroring the detective agency here, the defense agency here. Because everybody was like, when Atsushi in episode 1, he was like, the defense agency, like it's all a rumored group of gifted individuals, and it's like, no, it's this ragtag group of gifted individuals, and the Guild is the North American version of that. Cool. So we got that parallel. So we basically have a triad of associations. We've got the Port Mafia, we have the Guild, and we have the agency, the ADA. So we basically have those in there. I guess other than Lucy and Francis, this other nameless guy was not important because he did. He very did. He did. So, yeah. But, oh my gosh. So, lots to talk about. Okay, first of all, Francis is Jay Gatsby, and I love it. I have no clue what his ability is, the Great Gatsby. I have no clue how that translates to a power, but he as a character is very much Jay Gatsby. Like the whole, I have accolades, and look at all these things that I have. He reminds me kind of like Professor Slughorn from Harry Potter, where he's collecting all the things. He's collecting people, basically, that have gifts and wonderful, unique, interesting abilities. It's kind of like that. But he's like, I have all this money, and I have all these things, and I'll just buy. I like that there's kind of a clever, he's not just going to buy out the people that work for the agency. He's not going to buy out the building. He's not going to buy out the agency itself. He's going to buy out your permit. And I like that little bit of world building, that in order to function in this society, to have these people with these abilities, to legally be able to use those abilities, you have to have a permit. And apparently they're hard to get, because the president was very, very specific in how thankful he was that the person who did it works, and we'll get their name in a second, that they worked so hard to get that permit, so he was not willing just to sell it out, because apparently it's a very precious ordeal to get that done. So Dazai's back, and I like that Kunikita's like, you need to make a report of everything that happened while you were kidnapped by the Port Mafia. So the agency knows that Dazai was kidnapped by the Port Mafia. Obviously they don't know he's ex-Port Mafia member. Probably they don't know about Chuya and all the other dealings going on. So I like that Dazai is doing a little bit of manipulation here right off the bat. And that whole, like, you need to protect her. Like, he knows Atsushi is very self-sacrificing, and Kyoka needs a safe place to be, so he's going to be like, you need to protect her. So that's Dazai kind of manipulating, being like, yeah, just stay with Kyoka, because you two make a good team, and you need to do that. And then, of course, Atsushi's like, yes, I can protect this girl. She's like a sister to me. La la. And then he just goes back to what he's doing, and Kunikita's like, you need to file this report about your capture by the Port Mafia, and then he assigns Atsushi to do it instead, and has the little flash drive with information about the guild on it. So I find that curious, that Dazai's kind of skirting around what's happened, and Kunikita and everybody just kind of goes along with it. That makes me wary of Dazai to a great extent, because Dazai's a little more serious this episode on the surface, it seems. Like, his expressions are a little more serious. But Dazai lies so easily in this opening scene. Like, he so easily lies. He's like, oh, they're not, it's very half-truths. Like, he's telling Kunikita and the agency what they need to know, but he's not telling them the full story. And so that makes me a little sketchy with Dazai's character. I'm like, you're not telling everything. You're playing some things close to the vest here. But I like that Francis just shows up in a helicopter in the middle of the road and is like, oh yeah, you didn't have a launch pad. Can I just park this thing here? And has this assassin and Lucy with him. And I get that the guild seems kind of like a mixture between the Port Mafia and the agency, because on the one hand, it seems like, the way Lucy describes it, it's kind of like the agency, and it's this ragtag group of people that are gifted and need a place to, be with one another. They're kind of like all outcasts that have been shoved into this one group, kind of like the agency is in a certain respect. But then on the other hand, it seems like they're very easy to discard members as well, because Lucy's like, if I fail this mission, I'll be cast out. Whereas I think the agency itself, if Atsushi failed a mission, and he kind of has in the past, prior episodes, if you fail a mission, I don't think anybody in the agency is going to kick you out. Right? Because technically, like, Kunikita failed in his mission. He didn't stop the Azure Messenger and save her. I mean, he stopped her, but he didn't, his mission wasn't a total success, but no one cast him out of the agency, So I feel like that this guild is sort of a mixture between the Port Mafia and the agency itself. It's like a midway between the spectrum, right? And yeah, Francis just comes in and thinks he's going to buy the permit, and you can just see how frustrated and annoyed the president is, especially when Francis keeps getting his name wrong. And he's like, having none of this guy. And that's a very Jay Gatsby, like Jay Gatsby in the book, The Great Gatsby, on the surface seems like a very, he talks the talk. Jay Gatsby in the novel has all these accolades, he's done all these things, he's like a war hero, he knows all these people, he's very wealthy, and on the surface he seems like this perfect person. But then the more you dig under the surface, you're like, the cracks start to appear. And you kind of see that with Francis Hare, where he's trying to buy out the business permit, and the president's like, nope, not going to happen. And so the president says, that the certain person gave them the permit, and that, yeah, some of these things you can't buy with money. And Francis is like, oh, that's the mantra of the poor. Like, bravado is pointless if your employees disappear and your agency ceases to function. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. Thanks for the advice. Get out. So yeah, Lucy's power is pretty creepy. Pretty creepy. Very much so. But, oh my gosh, the Port Mafia boss. The Port Mafia boss being there, I'm assuming, to try to get the info on the guild. And then I like that the whole time in the background, the Port Mafia boss, and we'll get his name again at the end of this, but he was trying to get their attention subtly. He was trying to subtly get their attention, being like, hey, I'm loudly looking for this kid, pay attention. And they were all too busy worrying about their own thing. They didn't, at once consider anything. They're like, eh. And so that was very clever that he was trying to do. It was a very Dazai approach to it, like trying to be loud and obnoxious and intentionally obvious to get their attention. That was a very Dazai thing to do. which makes me wonder how much Dazai picked up from the Port Mafia leader. Like, how much did he learn from him? He's quite terrifying. And I didn't realize that was him at first. I was like, oh, who's this random dude? And then the moment he showed the picture, it's like, oh, it's you. And he's been in the shadows this whole time. But, And Lucy's quite creepy with her braces, and they really exaggerate. It had a very Soul Eater vibe. Like, her face was so distorted and exaggerated. A very, very, very Soul Eater vibe. And I like that she has no clue who the Port Mafia leader is, because it's a three-way war. It's, as he said, it's like it's the agency, the guild, and the Port Mafia. And she must be relatively new to the guild, because she acts very much like Atsushi. I saw a lot of parallels this episode to her and Atsushi and Akutagawa and Kyoka. So those four all have similar pasts. They're all orphans. They're all from being cast. They've all been cast out, and they all are trying to find a place to belong. And that's kind of what she was trying to tell Atsushi. And you can tell Atsushi was very empathetic towards her, was because similar to Atsushi and Kyoka, Atsushi's like, I grew up in the slums, or Akutagawa's like, I grew up in the slums. I joined the Port Mafia to get stronger, so I'd have a place that would recognize me and keep me. Kyoka, this is your only way. You can't survive out in the streets. You've got to be in the Port Mafia. Atsushi, same way. The orphanage kicked him out. He was going to starve to death. So luckily the agency found him, and that's the place where he's found he can belong. With Lucy, she's like, I was cast out. I was deemed a freak because of my abilities. Which the Anne of the Abysmal Red, it's like Raggedy Ann. I'm assuming that when I research her ability, it's going to tie back to that, because the character looks just like Raggedy Ann. She needed a place to stay, and the guild gave her that. But there's all these parallels with these characters, which I find fascinating. And it's all kind of like tying back to the environment molding you in a certain way. Like, she's been molded by the environment that she's been in, and she's acting a certain way because she has no choice. Like, that, she thinks that's her only option. And then, yeah, she's lovely, just like an angel. That little Elise is her name. Elise. Or at least that's the name that we're giving her, is Elise. But this man, this Port Mafia leader, like, if Dazai took a page out of his book and learned from him, I'd believe it, because he can, like, turn on a dime, like, switching from being this sympathetic, like, ex-doctor that's like, oh no, to being a ruthless, like, maniacal leader in, like, 5 seconds. I'm all about it. I'm so excited to see this guy in season 2. Now that we know who he is, it's like, ooh, I'm glad y'all didn't spoil him for me, because holy cow. So the light snow ability was really cool. Tanizaki using his light snow ability. I'm guessing Atsushi and him, like, they got a wavelength, because I'm like, how'd you know he was using his ability this whole time? Unless they, like, psychically connected and were like, this is how we're doing it, bro. But I mean, worked. Great job. Good on ya. Tanazaki's pretty reliable when he needs to be. My question was, because I don't think that the Port Mafia leader knew that they were doing that. So the question is, was he about to really use his ability if Atsushi hadn't stepped in and Tanizaki had used his? And he said that comment, I would mow down enemies left and right. So it sounds like his attack is kind of a widespread ability, like it's a widespread assault. So I'm curious if they hadn't stepped in and revealed that Tanizaki was doing things from the start, would he have gotten it? Would he have used his power and it would have hurt all of them? I don't know. But this part here where he's about to run away, where Atsushi is about to run away. Here's the thing. I'm assuming Atsushi didn't know Tanazaki's powers were still in effect until right when he was captured. I'm not sure, because he's about to leave, and then the guy pulls him back with the ribbon. And this whole conversation, very Dazai-like, your enemy lies that way. What he says to him is so interesting. Trust the words of your local neighborhood physician. And he like instantly slumps back down. Like he has this moment where he kind of shows his true self, and then he puts on that persona. And he's like, oh wait, no, and he slouches his arms. He's like, oh wait, no, just maybe here's some advice. Maybe you shouldn't because you'll forget everything once you leave. And then he starts using words like your enemy's subterfuge and your colleagues are in danger. Like he starts to use like very more sophisticated language than that. And it's like, and he says in game theory, the optimal strategy is to launch a total counteroffensive on the enemy who has attacked you. So to attack right back quickly and crush the enemy. And Atsushi's like, well, how do you do that? And he says an arrogant enemy who feels invincible is the most vulnerable opponent of all. And that right there connects back to Octagawa back in episode 10. Because Octagawa had this air of invincibility. He's like, I can destroy you, Were-Tiger. Like, I'm so much stronger than you and superior. And it was true. Octagawa thought he was invincible. And in fact, he was pretty vulnerable. And so he's not wrong. And he's like, well, also, you're going to run away, but the people behind those doors, they were the ones that tried to save you. Like, you'd be letting all them down. Do you want to do that? And then Atsushi's like, yeah, they did save me. So, So I'm so curious. That is your optimal solution. Wouldn't be fun the other way, any other way. But, So, I'm not exactly sure how the whole light snow, how he knew that it was the light snow ability at the time, and how he didn't. And then we didn't see him take the ribbon. I like that. Going back and rewatching this, it only shows the upper half of her body when he goes past her with the ribbon. We don't see the ribbon tie around her waist, but when you cut back to him going through the door, he doesn't have the ribbon anymore. So that is a cool animation consistency there. That's really cool. And then she's like, what will you do, mister? And his power, which I'm assuming it's not light snow, like that's his ability in purple, because she's like, she can't move. She's like, quivering in fear of him and his abilities. So I'm so intrigued. So intrigued. And he looks terrifying. So, okay, cool. And then the light snow, so he clearly saw the light snow going on. So I wonder if when he was dragged into the door, he did this to stop the door, and that's when he saw the light snow was in effect. And I like that he says, he's like, I don't want you to fail this mission because I know what you mean by if you fail, you're going to be left behind. He's like, I don't want that to happen to you, but I've got to save my friends. So I'm sorry I got to do this, but yeah, you're kind of out of luck. And so then, they end up saving them and all this. And then he finds Elise. Where have you been? I was so worried. So and you just up and vanished. I thought Rinto would worry if I send you spirit. I wanted to make him cry. That's so mean. Yeah, this kid's demonic. I don't trust her at all. She seems freaky as hell. And then Kyoka runs into him. And then she's like, oh yeah, I came to find you because I was worried. And then he's like, thanks. And then that's when she sees him. And we don't see Kyoka's face. We just see him and Atsushi saying thanks for the advice. And he's like, you're a doctor. And he's like, oh, I'm an ex-doctor. And I'm just right now a middle-aged man keeping a small group of people in line. Oh, what a line. What a piece of dialogue. I'm just an ex-doctor keeping a small group of people in line. So an ex-doctor. Interesting. I can't possibly imagine what kind of ability would go with that. I really want to know if I need to research him or Lucy for the season 2 premiere. I think I want to do Lucy first and save him until we actually see his ability. I don't want to research him yet because I don't want to be spoiled if his ability gives something away. I think I'll wait and do Lucy for the episode 1 of season 2 and save his ability for later. But yeah, and then Kyoka, we don't see her face, but we see her grab Atsushi's arm. And he's like, boy, a logical, optimal solution exists in any wartime situation, no matter how difficult the challenge. You must not forget that, especially in times of confusion when you might feel inclined to recklessness. And then Atsushi's like, oh, gee, thanks, mister. Thanks so much. And he's just like, man, there is a way, even in difficult times. What a great piece of advice from that man. Right, Kyoka? And she's like, nope. She's like, I know who that was. and I'm freaked out. Holy cow. Oh my god. So I'm assuming I'm like, is she going to tell them that that was him? Are we going to start season 2 with knowing that was the Port Mafia leader and you just let him walk away? But also, it's so intriguing because the leader, which granted, the Port Mafia doesn't want the were-tiger. I mean, Octagawa has an obsession with him now, but that's because of Dazai. He's on his own personal agenda with that vendetta against Atsushi. But the Port Mafia doesn't want Atsushi. The only reason they were after him to begin with was to get him to the guild, because the guild had a bounty on him. But in reality, after this episode, I'm pretty sure that they just wanted to get to the guild to attack them. They just wanted Francis to be out in the open to get the were-tiger so they could launch an assault on him. Because that goes back to what he's saying about there is a logical solution in any wartime situation. And at the end of this episode, he says, we are at war with the guild and the agency. So, of course, there's a logical explanation of how we can do this. And then I like that he's like, oh, I felt younger for a brief second. He's like, that made me feel younger. I wish I could have used my ability. And she's like, you're too old for that. He's like, that's mean. I may not look like much. And they just wrecked that assassin. It's everybody. It's Black Lizard. It's Chuya. It's the whole gang. The gang's all here. And they're like, hello, boss. And yeah, they all bow down to him. Oh my god. And so this is a guild assassin. He just steps right over him. The agency and the guild. Seems we're in a challenging wartime situation ourselves. Oh, Mori Ogai. We need an optimal solution. The agency and the guild. Vita Sexualis. And those who oppose us will be crushed and annihilated. And it all goes back to what he told Atsushi. He's like, every situation has a logical solution. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So we got a 3-way war going on. And I find his relationship with Atsushi so fascinating. Guy. Was it Mori? Mori. And the fact that all these characters are so very reverent towards him, which obviously, I mean, I feel like the only one that gets on his case is the girl, is Elise. So I'm wondering if Elise is his daughter, or maybe she has like an anti-aging ability where she just kind of stays a child forever and she's actually like as old as him. Mori. That's what I'm wondering. And Vita Sexualis. I wonder if it's Vita, if it's relating to his life, if he can just instantly kill people or control their body parts. I don't know. I'm so curious. But yeah, I wonder if that little girl, if she's his daughter or if she's, I wonder, because there's a character in Hunter x Hunter that she looks like her. There's a character in Hunter x Hunter that looks like her, but is actually an older woman. She just is able to keep herself youthful through her power. And so I wonder if that's kind of the case with this girl, if she is actually a lot older and she just keeps herself looking youthful through her ability, like an immortality thing. And that's why she can get onto him, because she's actually like his senior or his equal or something. I don't know, but I am 100 times more curious about Mori and the Port Mafia now. I'm so much more curious about them, because the Port Mafia this whole season has been kind of like, I've joked around that they're like Team Rocket. I was like, oh, they're like Team Rocket. They're just blasting off again. They'll come back and fight the agency. But at the end of this episode, things are pretty serious, and none of them looked jokey. Like Motojiro was there, Chuya's there, the Black Lizard captain's there, like Gin is there, like they're all there, and they all look serious in front of Mori. So, I am so intrigued, y'all. But yeah, this first season of Bungo Stray Dogs, a lot of fun. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. It's been so much fun. And especially these last several episodes of us getting into these characters more. Like we've basically gone through every character that's a main character so far. Like we've gotten through everybody's abilities. We've introduced everybody. We've got their base personalities. And now we're getting into the Port Mafia. and their abilities. And we don't know the rest of the members of the guild. This one guy's dead, but Lucy is still around, and I'm assuming she's going back to Francis. But yeah. Oh my gosh. So much fun. I love this episode. This was amazing. So if second season is like this episode, I'm really going to enjoy it, because this episode was a lot. This is definitely one of my favorite. I'd say if I had to rank these episodes, obviously my favorite one is probably this one, and episode 9 and 10 I really liked. I really liked episode 11. Basically from episode 7 on, episode 3 was really good when we first got introduced to Octagawa, but from episode 7 and 8 on, I've liked them all a lot. And the intrigue and mystery that this episode is set up leading into season 2, I'm really excited for. So yeah. Man, I've talked a lot about this. It's probably the longest one I've done for Bungo so far, but warranted. It's the season finale. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode too. I'm so curious to know your thoughts and what you guys thought of it, but please let me know down below. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. We're going straight into season 2. Like, we're not taking a break. We're not doing a poll. We're going into season 2. Like, we can't stop now. Some reactors are like, oh, we'll just maybe get to season 2. No, we're doing it. We're doing it. So next week we will start season 2 with episode 1. I was told there's an OVA, but I looked at the timeline of when to watch everything in order, and it goes Bungo Stray Dogs season 1, season 2. Actually on Crunchyroll, the OVA is the episode at the end of season 2. So we will watch the OVA. It'll be at the end of season 2, and the movie Dead Apple, and then season 3, and then we'll probably do Juan. We'll probably do Bungo Stray Dogs 1. It's like kind of like the chibi version, but we might as well do it. Why not? So we'll probably do that too when the series are over, just to get the full Bungo experience. And then maybe we'll talk about the manga and things like that after that's said and done. But we got lots of Bungo Stray Dogs left to go, and I am so excited to get into it. So have a great week, guys. Stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with episode 1 of season 2 of Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye.